Jesus asks us a very important question in this morning's gospel. Who do you say that I am? How do you answer that question? Who do you think Jesus is? This is a critical question demanding a personal response from every single one of us as followers of Jesus. Who do you say that I am? Over the ages, people have provided lots of answers to that question. And very often the answers show that they want Jesus to be just like them. Or they want to shape Jesus to their own liking. People have provided lots of answers. There was one age where people thought of Jesus as a kind of Zeus-like deity, ready to cast lightning bolts at the world. Another age saw Jesus as a suffering servant on a wooden cross. Another age has seen Jesus as a manicured man on a $22,000 gold cross from Tiffany's. And our age is not immune to self-projection either. Someone said that in our times, we tend to look at Jesus as Jesus Light, L-I-T-E. Jesus, my buddy, who's ready to pat me on the back, give me the high sign, and wink at my misbehavior. A Jesus who is sweet, non-judgmental, a live and let live kind of guy. A Jesus who is a swell fella, but not very inspiring to us, not someone for whom we would die, and not someone we necessarily would live for either. Who do you say that I am? Jesus asks us. There was a survey that was taken not too long ago of American teenagers, and 3,200 teenagers answered. And it was all about faith life. And some good news from that survey was that most of the respondents were not hostile towards religion. But why? Well, we have many of our young people who are quite devout in their faith. But we also have many of our young people who are not devout in their faith. And they were not hostile towards religion across the board because, as some said, religion is no big deal. Some said Jesus is no big deal. One of the respondents even went on to say, well, it doesn't really matter. Everyone goes to heaven after they die. And I know that in the end, Jesus is going to forgive me for anything that I've done wrong in life. So what's the worry? What kind of a Jesus is that? That is not the Jesus of the Gospels. Our young people are full of passion. And we sometimes, as older people, present a passionless Jesus to them. Our youth want to make a difference in our world. They are idealistic. They are generous. and they are looking for authenticity. That's one of the reasons that 1 million young people turn out for World Youth Day, wherever in the world it's held, in order to be with an elderly pope. And why do they want to be with the Pope? Because he stands for something and for someone. Our young people look for the heroic, but sometimes we as older people have presented a Jesus to them that is more like a toothy Paul Lynde with a halo. Who do you say that I am? Who is the Jesus we read about in the Gospels? He's a Jesus who will get upset with us and even yell at us and tell us to pluck out our eye if our eyes are accessing pornography on the internet. He is a Jesus who is not happy about the revenge and the violence in our world that we bring into our lives through television, through movies, through video games. Jesus tells us that if somebody slaps us on one cheek, we should turn and offer that person the other cheek. He tells us that we should not respond in kind to injury. He tells us that we should be feeding the hungry and giving drink to the thirsty and clothing the naked and forgiving one another from the bottom of our hearts. And that if we don't, there are consequences. We run the risk of losing the joy of heaven and coming to the pains of hell. Now, is the picture that I'm painting right now of Jesus inaccurate? No, it's not. If you read the Gospels, Matthew chapter 25, Jesus tells the story of the separation of the sheep from the goats. And the sheep say to him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink?" And Jesus answers, "Whatever you did for the least of my brothers and sisters, you did for me." And they went off to eternal glory in heaven. But the other said, "When did we see you hungry and not feed you, or thirsty and not give you drink?" And Jesus says, "As often as you did not do that for the least of my brothers and sisters, you failed to do it for me," and they went off to eternal punishment in hell. Who do you say that I am? One writer was reflecting on this, and the words are so well written that I share them with you today for your own consideration. This author writes, "In constructing our colorless Jesus, you would think we never heard his sharp words about the doomed, materialistic rich man and Lazarus, about the Son of Man who casts evildoers into eternal fire, the Lord who hands the unjust servant over to the torturers and tosses the man without the wedding garment into the outer darkness." How about Jesus' pointed words? "What does it profit us if we gain the whole world and lose our very souls in the process?" You'd think we never heard Jesus telling stories about destroying nasty tenants, that he's come to set a son against his father and a daughter against her mother,